What up, Super Fun Force? All right, for Beyblade Tuesdays today, we're going to talk about how to build attack types and how to attack in the new Dynamite battle system. Okay, now this is all based upon what I feel like, and as many in the WBA specify as being the standard stadium, which is playing on the Dynamite Battle Stadium with Dynamite Battle Bays, right? So this is the one you're going to be using. Okay, this is the one that obviously has, again, the two pockets here, 1 and 2, and the very, very wide and large battling area, which is perfect in my opinion. So let's get into it really quickly. So it's basically changed, and we need to move on, I think, from the fact that a lot of people, they like to still play on the smaller GT standard stadium, and they like their flower patterns, right? They like building, just grabbing any, whatever Joker or like Zwei or whatever Valkyrie, and then they just like saying, oh, we'll slap a rubber driver on it and then we'll bank launch flower pattern, boom, okay, attacking, that's how we go. Well, that's fine and dandy, especially if you're playing the GT era, and that is definitely a viable strategy. Not saying it isn't, very powerful, but we're in Dynamite Battle now. How long do we want to play that? Like, is Beyblade forever going to be about just like, okay, I launch a flower attack pattern, woohoo, I attacked? No. We need to get to a point where it's like, we have to factor in other ways to be a successful and a powerful attacker. Now, that means that there's two ways to look at it. Number one is you can still build highly mobile attacking Beyblades to either get a knockout, maybe even a burst, or you can also build attack balanced Beyblades, which have a chance at final spin and are able to go toe to toe against stamina Beyblades. Okay, so that's the first thing you have to do when you build your attack Beyblade, starting with the layer. Then you have to go down into the driver and say, am I going to try to make something that's going to attack and move quickly? Good examples are the rubber drivers, and then another one I think is, I have to really give props to, because people don't think it's good, but I've been playing with it and it is very good, as Sword. Sword is also great. It moves a lot, has extra weight, and it kind of falls into this camp here with like rubber drivers. I will also say that Shot Driver is okay. It's fun. It's not super consistent, but it does have its uses, right? And this is, again, for more mobile attack types where you launch them in and they're going to essentially try to move around and hit them more. So these rubber types, you have Sword, you have Shot Driver. All right, and now let's go ahead and talk about what I think about these rubber drivers. Now, essentially, because we're playing, Burst Ultimate, Dynamite Battle, you can use anything up to this point, right? So there's also like Excel Dash, there's like Hunter, there's like Quick, but definitely Extreme has been a champion coming out of GT. And let's start talking about that. So what I will say is that Extreme definitely still seems to be the fastest, but the most erratic. So when you just launch it, know that it will definitely move around and have the most chance, the highest chance to make contact and move around, but it definitely burns out of stamina the quickest, okay? So keep that in mind. It's a little bit more random. It's not going to be flower pattern, but still, if you launch hard and fast and your bay can connect, it can hit, it has the ability to get closer to the pockets. If you know how to kind of aim against your opponent's aim and what their bay is going to do, like, is it going to try to go to the center? Is their bay going to kind of tornado stall for a little bit? Is it going to like orbit around? You'll know how to launch, at least initially, to try to get them and hit them where they might want to put their bay. So keep that in mind too. That's another thing when you attack. So Extreme means that you want to obviously launch, if they're going to go in the center, you always want to try to launch towards the center, towards the bank, and this is with any driver actually, because then they'll have the chance to move around a lot, hit, and hopefully get them knocked out or hit them to the point where they'll actually lose their stamina. Okay. Now with this driver, boy oh boy. Now these two are very close, okay, but I will say I like Evolution Dash better, because interestingly enough, it is a little bit taller slightly, and there's obviously more rubber protruding. And I initially thought when I looked at these that this one would have, this is the one that comes with the Ultimate Valkyrie, would have a little bit more stamina because it's just rounder, whereas this one has 4 edges. However, in my testing, overall with different combinations, this one actually has more stamina. So this is my favorite rubber driver because it allows the bay to continue to spin and possibly make more hits down to the very end, and sometimes even get a draw depending on your attack type. This one here is the in-between. So this one has less stamina than Evolution Dash, more stamina than than Extreme, but Excel the problem is that it, or variable, is that it doesn't quite do either of these very well. So again, it moves very similar to Evolution Dash, right? So Evolution Dash likes to move around a lot in circles. Sometimes it can like hit a little bit like a flower. Tendency to get stuck in the outer ring, but the good news is if it's able to line up and come in, sometimes it can start either hitting a few times and knocking it out, or if it's still fast, it might actually come in and make a strong attack. This is similar, but it doesn't seem to have enough impact and stamina as this one. So that's kind of like the interesting situation we're at here with the rubber drivers, okay? Now, I definitely recommend you test, make your combinations, and maybe you'll find some things to contribute, or you will use this for a specific combination better than the other two, right? Or maybe even this better than the others. However, the last thing I want to talk about with the rubber drivers, the one flaw, especially with the Hunter, or excuse me, I keep saying Hunter, especially with the Extreme Metal, or even Extreme Dash, is that in the Dynamite Battle Stadium, since it has to travel more, right, versus the older stadium, it again does run out of power and stamina quicker. But more importantly, the bays just have gotten so much more heavier, okay? And the reason why I say that's a negative for rubber drivers is very simple, okay? It's just like anything with rubber. This is why we have rubber tires on our vehicles, right? Is that the more weight and the more pressure, the more friction, which slows it down, okay? And that's plain and simple. Like that's like the basic physics of it, right? So essentially what happens is Hunter, Extreme, Hunter, Excel, Evolution, Quick, any of the rubber drivers, okay, are not going to be as effective moving forward because of the fact that your bay is heavier, traveling more, which is going to cause more friction. So, but with that being said, what I want to recommend is definitely, if you want to build this kind of style, like you want to move around a lot and still make an attack with a bay that will basically go all or nothing to knock out the other bay, then you have to 100% play the lighter side of Dynamite Battle. The lighter side for sure, meaning you're going to have to look at making Dynamite into an attack layer, which is totally feasible. You can even do the same thing with one of my favorites, is turning Cyclone into an attack type. Check out my shorts on that. Even though Cyclone was built to be, stamina, it gets destroyed because everything that attacks it and that has even slightly similar stamina is usually heavier and will hit this harder, and it will actually sap the stamina from this. Like attacks will blow this up, and with left spins, and stamina balances, they will either be able to tie with this or beat it up. So it's like, it actually is going to lose a lot more when you're playing with, I wouldn't say lose a lot more, but it's going to be a lot more matchup dependent for sure if you build this still to be stamina. It's not like it's bad or impossible. Like it actually does against lighter ones, it actually does really good against Dynamite. However, it might struggle against, Roar, or even the left spin 8 Dragons can like knock this out or burst it, right? So keep that in mind. But that's why I've been having more fun playing this as an attack type, because hey, if I'm going to lose more of my matches, either way, why not try to just go all in and do something different and make it lightweight and move around and attack? Same thing goes if, like, let's say you already built like a bearing dash combo here with your Dynamite, and of course you have extra ones, then you might want to try building it with a rubber driver and make it more attack based, or especially maybe with a new A gear, right? And maybe that's also another thing that will save the Dynamite 3 layer, or the Divine layer. Maybe it's good to be lighter, and try to do something like this. The only reason why I haven't tried it is, again, I'm having more fun using like my Cyclone. I'm having more fun using my my other Dynamite here. But we'll see. Again, if there's any hope for the Dynamite 3 layer, aka Belial, Divine, sorry, it would be because you would make it a lighter bay that works with these rubber drivers, right? So I definitely recommend that if you want to build this style, which is super fun and can definitely be competitive, especially in 3G, 5G point-based battles in WBBA, 100% it is very possible. All right. So lastly, I'm just going to talk about, for the drivers, the combinations of attack types in general. Like let's say we take Ultimate here, and then my favorite is, my other favorite is, of course, my actual favorite Valtrak of all time is going to be here, Saber. I like saying Saber because of these, right? Sabia. And the reason why is because this is injected with rubber all throughout, making it solid, but having that ability to make very powerful attacks. Now, instead of putting rubber drivers on these guys, right? Even this guy here, I opt for more balanced drivers. Again, look at the option for even like Sword, because Sword now on Dynamite Battle has decent stamina. It generally has a lot more stamina than the rubber drivers, and that extra weight, that star pattern, does allow it to move around too, but have a little bit of stamina and have a chance to get maybe a tie in final spin. You can definitely also look at, I wouldn't recommend though, like the bearing dash, like these ones came with, like for example, the, I know it came with Dynamite Perseus, but I would much rather recommend you take a look at other types, like at this point, maybe the Extend Plus would be really good. You can definitely try a Drift, but even then, I would say that Drift would probably not work out as good as even, let's say, something like, High Extend Plus. You would definitely want to look at All Might, and you definitely want to look at, let me grab this right over here. You can also start to look at things like Zone Dash and other drivers I think that have been definitely overlooked are Kick, because Kick, if you make an attack balance, it allows it, what you want to do when I'm talking about making an attack balance type, is what you want to do is you want to make an attack type that instead of moving around, right, and attacking a lot, it's going to try to go into the center, right? Naturally go into the center to hit other stamina bays where most stamina and defense bays like to stay. And then it can still, like, as they move around, right, now it will kind of bounce back, and then it can try to make an attack again. Sometimes it gets counterattack, that's always the risk, but it's able to make moves like this and battle for the middle position so that stamina just doesn't sit there, stamina defense, and win while you're spinning around and then losing all your stamina. And then it's like at the point where you have none, you just come in, you're like, oh, I can't do anything anymore. And then this just keeps spinning, right? So this is where, like I said, you can use things like Zone Dash, you can even use like Wave Dash, and you can make those drivers launch to come inside to the middle. They'll come in consistently, it's much easier to control, and they will hit the defense and stamina drivers, and then, sometimes the only risk is that if they do stay in the center, sometimes other staminas then will start to orbit a little bit, but you still have a good chance because now you're saving your stamina, and when it comes in, you make a counterattack, and then maybe, if it comes on a final spin, this is where you have a chance to get a draw. Or, which is good because again, that means 1 point for each player. According to, my modified tournament rules, that means each player gets a point and we move on to the next battle. We're not going to sit there and just keep battling and stuff like that. However, in the case of a rebattle, if you're playing another different format, that gives you the chance to maybe even get another attack to, knock them out. It's the same opportunity. They have a chance to win. But look at it, the fact that if you even tied at the end, you still have a good enough chance to either win or maybe get a tie. And again, you can get that knockout that you needed, that burst. So that's the second way to play attack types nowadays, is to not just simply go into the whole, old school mindset of like, oh, I just throw an attack driver on here that's rubber, and then boom, I try to do flower pattern, I win. No, now we have to look at attack types as being able to go in against the stamina defense types, and that way it'll battle for the center position of the Dynamite Stadium and have the ability to hopefully knock out, double knockout, get a single knockout, burst it, or just hit it so hard against the wall or something that it like starts to just lose stamina and just actually ends up giving a survivor finish to your attack type. And that's what I've been seeing in so many of my battles. Again, throw your Dynamite, throw your Vanish, your Roar, your Perfect Phoenix, and I guarantee you I will have a few combinations, at least 3 or 4, that will easily destroy them as far as like with the right matchup in the launch conditions. It will like knock out, burst. It'll even sometimes get a draw or a survivor finish against stamina types. Now, nothing is 100%, right? Like in other words, for the most part, when you build your attack types, if you do try it against these meta combos, try to get at least a 50-50 chance for a win or a draw, and maybe no less than 40. Because let's say the top tier combo was like the Vanish or the F-Gear Dynamite. These are staminas, right? And I build an attack type. Well, even if I have a 40% chance to win, I would still think that would be very fun. And in a 5G battle especially, to have that spread. If I get this quote unquote difficult matchup, then I know that there's still a good chance. I believe in it. I launch properly. I launch hard and powerful. There's a good chance I'll still knock this one out, or I'll get a draw or something. And that's what really makes it, again, part of that whole even playing field I talked about in my other video, that I guarantee you'll notice the more you play with different combinations and you battle against other BeyBlades for sure. All right, guys, and then for the last very quick wrap up, now that you know, to recap, the two main important things to think about when building attack types is, do you want to build a lighter style with mobility on a rubber driver, or do you want to go a little bit more balanced, heavier, and then make it so that your attack Beyblade wants to go into the center using maybe a stamina or a balanced driver, so it will go into the center and it'll hit. But if you notice that their Bey will probably move around a little bit more, you can still launch bank to give it more movement in the beginning, right? But if you know that, let's say the Dynamite, bearing, drift, whatever, or the Perfect Phoenix is gonna launch into the center, then definitely launch right into the center and know that your driver and combination is gonna battle it, right? Because attack types, that's the main thing. You wanna make sure you're making contact and striking the other Bey, okay? So finally, I just want to talk about drivers really quick, or excuse me, the launchers. Now, I have to say at this point, I'm 100% behind the sword launcher. It doesn't mean that you can't win or that it's like terrible if you don't have a sword launcher and you only have this launcher. But I will say that sword launchers give extra power. And what you can see here is, let's see if I can do a quick example. Let's say I launch hard with the standard string launcher, right? So if I launch just from my steady position up here, okay, it goes into the center, it stays there, that's where the power is, and again, we see it moves around a little bit because I launched it extra hard. However, when you launch with a sword launcher, it actually shoots the Bey, but that's why, like I mentioned in my Excalibur video, you gotta make sure your grip is firm, you understand the Bey is extended out a little bit more, and depending on even the slightest angle, right, like if you tilt it out, you'll shoot it that way, to the left, you'll shoot to the left, but it'll shoot with a lot more force. And I'll show you guys by tilting it a little bit out this way, and we're gonna see what's gonna happen, even on the Bey combination. Okay. Oh man, I pulled back a second. Hold on. It also could be because it's the driver. 1 second. I'll put it right here. And yeah, there you go. So now you can see this one slid a little bit more forward and it's moving around a lot more than when I did it with this one. Now, if I were to use an attack type with like a rubber driver or a more balanced driver, you'll see that the shoot is much more pronounced, right? See, and this is an example of what stamina does. And that's why, like I said, when you want to build a balanced attack type, is you want your driver that will also be able to go into the center and attack. You don't want it to be like maybe moving around and on the tornado ring here that a lot of rubber drivers do sometimes. And then after that, you're gonna lose because this has more stamina. Then you're gonna just come in and like, oh, my attack is useless, right? So there you guys go. I mean, maybe I'll show you too on let's do this too. Let's just put the sword driver here on Cyclone, since we have an attack type right here. So let's say I launch it here, string launcher. Okay. It kind of went up this way a little bit, as you can see, and then it did move around a lot for sure. But now, let's launch it with the sword. Wow, yeah, look how that came forward a little bit faster, and it now even moved around a lot more. Yeah, but there you guys go. Again, it's definitely stronger into my battles. Yeah, see, so the string launcher just made it kind of go around here. But, obviously you got to be careful because with this sword launcher, you wouldn't want to get stuck on a tornado ring. But if I launch this with the sword launcher, as you can see right here, tilt it a little bit. Yeah, look at that. It's hard to see on this camera angle, but it does go forward more a little bit, right? And again, depending on your driver and how hard you launch it, it will go in the direction you shoot it more, at least by a good 1 or 2 inches, which makes a huge difference. And as you can see, the power is there, and it causes it to kind of even spin out a little bit. So now you might be thinking, well, that's not good if you get stuck in a tornado ring, but for the most part, you want to be hitting the other bay. There's no other bay here to hit, right? So what that means is that if it's going to have that ability to want to go to the outside, if you aim and shoot something, right, and you push it, then the good chance is that now you guys are both pushed, and then it might even come around and like get a knockout or get like a wall hit or something, and then it'll be able to kind of move around and keep hitting, right? So anyways, you can watch my battles because you can see it a lot more evident when I launch with the sword launcher, and when I win with my attack bays and I'm using this launcher, I mean, you can see it like they get shot out, and it just has way more power, right? All right, guys, well, thanks so much. That is my analysis on how to build attack types. And then one last thing in conclusion, as I said before, rubber, lighter. If you want to build attack balance, you can go heavier. You got to experiment with drivers that will be a little bit more stamina, go towards the center. And finally, practice with the sword launcher. Although not 100% necessary, I think it does give you just enough of an advantage to make it for sure worth it. All right, guys, let me know in the comments below what you think. What are some of your favorite attack combinations? If you want to have me do any attack videos, let me know. Definitely do them. All right, thanks again for liking and subscribing. New Beyblade videos and lab videos every Tuesday. And don't forget, keep your faith, say a prayer, spread that love, be positive, be thankful. We'll be coming back at you. Peace.